we're back live with a podcast. I know it's been a while. It's been a minute, guys. I've missed all of you. I hope you've been enjoying and catching up with all the incredible podcasts and interviews I've had on this show. Guys, I've just... everything, the content, the response, the feedback. I want to thank all of you guys for all of the support to the Jits Guy podcast. I want you guys to also show some love and support to the sponsors. Yes, we are officially sponsored as the Jits Guy podcast, making it possible. And it is proof that in the Middle East, there are people that are looking out for talent, athletes, coaches, and content creators to support them to grow this martial art. So guys, go check out Rise and Glide. Without them, we wouldn't be able to create this content for free for you guys to enjoy. Links down below. Please do check them out. You'll see their logos and branding all over my podcasts for the next few. But for now, guys, please give it up for my guest, Ricky Rout. Brother, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for having me, brother. Good to be here. Absolutely, my pleasure. It's long overdue since the Lola podcast. We're talking about it. I got to tell you, I don't know if you remember, but my first time coming to train in Team Noguiera Dubai, you were there. Yeah. I was a blue belt. I had just gotten my blue belt, actually. I came with my coach, Zumbi. Do you know Zumbi?
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So I've been with Zumbi since I started Jiu Jitsu. And we came to see Rafael since they're longtime friends. And we trained. And I saw you. You were a brown belt, I believe. Yeah. You had just gotten your brown belt or something when I came down. And I saw you, like the commitment level. You were there on the mats. You were there way before. Like when we arrived, you were in the gym. And I guess you were teaching kids that time?
Yes, I've been teaching kids since brown belt.
Wow. Okay, so you were teaching a class, you're hanging out, you're looking at everybody, you're helping people out, and then our class, and you joined our class, and you trained, and you're kicking ass. So I had my eye on you since then, and then when I met with Lola, and everything falls together, because as you talk to people, Ricky or Rick? What can I go for?
Either one. Normally it's Ricky.
Okay, so Ricky, as I was like doing my podcasts, I meet people. And these people talk to me about other people. And somehow you see this invisible thread in the Middle East starts connecting. And we realize how much closer we are to each other than we think. And this is where we are today. Now I'm here talking to you because of this invisible thread that led me here. And I got to say, man, there's some big appreciation for what you've done in terms of your teaching. Also, as well as your jiu-jitsu.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, man. You know, the universe brought us here today. And yeah,
yes,
man,
sir.
It's really cool. It's really cool how these... It's so crazy how tightly knit we are, without even knowing it.
Yeah. Do you think it is a jiu-jitsu thing, or do you think it's something that's like universal? When people share a common interest, it kind of makes it easier for them to connect?
Oh, 100%. You know, I think especially with, like, let's say a hobby like jiu-jitsu, or, you know, like a passion like jiu-jitsu, it takes a certain type of person to be able to stay in it for a long time.
So true.
You know, it takes a certain type of mentality to, like, come in and day out. You have some good days, you have some bad days, but regardless, because you love the, you know, like the vibe of the place, the energy of the place, you keep coming back. And usually it ends up being a very positive energy. And I think positive people are awesome to be around. And yeah, so, I mean, the people who've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while are awesome people generally. So it's really cool to connect with jiu-jitsu people.
It's very interesting when you put it that way, because it's true. After a certain while, you start seeing this kind of this familiar face in jiu-jitsu. White belt, you'll see a lot of mix of personalities. People want to try, right? But the people that stick past blue belt, I would say, like past the first, they get the blue belt, they're still excited, they want to test it out. Then after a few months, they might quit. The ones that don't tend to have similar personalities. Would you think that's accurate?
I agree. I agree 100%. You know, it's I find that the people who fixate a lot on the outcome, like let's say in this case is the blue belt, tend to be a bit short-sighted in their approach. So like from the beginning, the biggest goal is blue belt. And then once they get it, it's hard to find that motivation to go to purple, because it's such a far prospect. When you first get your blue belt, purple belt seems like a whole new mountain, and you just spent this whole, let's say, year and a half or 2 years climbing this first mountain, which you were just building up in your mind. And once you climb it, you're like, oh man, there's a whole 3 more mountains to go.
Ooh, that's so true, man. Being a blue belt, I can remember it because I'm a purple belt now, and it feels like just yesterday. It's exactly as you said. When I got my blue belt, I was excited and happy, but I'm like, holy shit, I'm not even halfway. Like, how much more is there? But I think it's like you're saying, like, and it's very relevant to today's life. A lot of people, they set their goal to be like money or wealth or popularity. And then once they get close to it, they settle and they just give up, right? They don't try to go further and discover what it has to offer.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And whenever teaching, I always try to instill, like, to set the goal as being excellent, because that's that's the infinite goal. And I mean, the pursuit will never end, but in the pursuit, all these belts will come, all these accolades will come. You know, just by being the person who's pursuing like excellence in technique and stuff, you just end up being a black belt one day. You're like, whoa, how did I get my black belt? It's just get lost in the process. It's the process. It's not the destination. It's the journey.
I get you. So you're the guy that would rather like kind of aim really high, and if you fall short, then at least you got to a very high standard. That's the kind of approach you take. Oh
yeah, 100%. I think there's a famous quote. It's better to aim really, really high than and fall short than to aim really low and achieve your target.
Oh yeah, that hurts. Absolutely. Because there's a lot of people that just aim low. They want to be in the safe zone. They want to, how can I say, they want a participation award. They want to feel like, I set such easy goals throughout my life that I achieved everything, I'm a winner. But is that really winning?
You know, to a certain extent, like everybody has kind of different goals. For some people, maybe it was just to prove to themselves that they can do it. It's not necessarily a lifelong commitment, you know.
Yeah.
And for those type of people, it's But I think the real honey, the real nectar, comes from like being able to constantly improve and have that thing that the improvement never ends. It's forever. Yeah. It's infinite.
Yeah, man. You know, Rick, like I always compare jiu-jitsu. I'm a video gamer. Since I was a kid, I loved video games, especially like experience points based games. I don't know if you've ever played something like an MMORPG. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we can relate on this. I compare jiu-jitsu to it, and my fascination to it kind of came from this background, which is you level up, and there's always a new level. That's the thing. Like MMORPGs, you hit a cap. In jiu-jitsu, you don't. You just keep building those experience points, and it's incredible. It's addictive.
Yeah. You know, like in some games, how they have like different bars for agility, for strength, for accuracy, for this, you know. So there'll come peaks where for like 6 months your half guard will go up, but then everything else will kind of stay still. And then for a while your half guard will go down, but your guard passing will go up. And it's gonna be this constant variance of like all your attributes, just like a character in Street Fighter.
So interesting. That is very true, man. That's very true. Because also, like, you know, if you increase accuracy, maybe strength goes down, you know?
Yeah.
That's a very, very nice way of looking at it. I wanted to talk to you, like, since we're on the subject of people, commitment to jiu-jitsu and the types of people, we went through a very unique phase in everybody's life, this pandemic. And it's really put us to the test, psychologically, emotionally, financially, everything. The people that come back to jiu-jitsu after a pandemic like this, or longed for jiu-jitsu during the pandemic, do you think it's going to bring a new dynamic to people learning jiu-jitsu, like a new appreciation for it?
You know, like I think it's very easy when things are always there, they're taken for granted.
Yes.
When things are easily available.
Yeah.
It's only when you lose certain things, you find out how valuable they were to you in the first place.
That's true.
You know, I think when of course for our entire community was a very tough time, you know, not being able to, you know, meet with our friends at the gym and like train and you know, exchange techniques and spar and have that famous after sparring chat on the mat. Exactly. Like right after sparring, you know, it's a very big part. And, you know, like, especially for any of us who train, it's one of our best parts of our day.
Yeah.
You know, and coming back for all those who are used to this, man, it's I know like I can't wait for things to go back to 100% normal, so we can go back to like full power again.
And it's like you said, it gives you a renewed sense of appreciation, because we were kind of talking about this offline. Computer's doing this again on me. Excuse me, guys, if this is happening and you're seeing. Let me just readjust it real quick. So I was saying, you get to see what I look like without the fancy camera. There you go. I was just saying, like, we live such a nice life in the UAE, but sometimes we can consider it spoiled, right? We don't go through as much hardships. We don't really need to test our character for adaptation. You know, and I think this is a very strong lesson that we learned from the pandemic, to adapt and to prioritize. What do we really need? Because we've got everything readily available, so that we're not prioritizing our things throughout our day. Our day is just a big mess and a blur. Today, everybody's like, no, I need this, this, and this. This is what I really need, right?
Yeah. You know, after a good amount of introspection, I think everybody comes to that same conclusion. What we think is important and what is really important have a few overlapping, words, but then usually what's really, really important is a very few things, which is for all of us.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like we're gonna come back as a community a lot stronger, and with people, like, their priorities will be a lot more clear when it comes to jiu-jitsu and their improvement. I want to deep dive and figure out what got you so addicted to this, what got you down this path, because I have a feeling there's a very interesting story behind this. When did this all start for you?
Back in high school, I went to high school in a place called Guam. It's an island in the Pacific Ocean. It's north of Australia.
Okay.
It's American territory over there, and I was in high school over there. So my first 3 years of high school, I was playing basketball, and it was really awesome. And then on the 4th year, they introduced wrestling, like high school wrestling. And from the first day I did wrestling in high school, I said, "Man, this is awesome. It's me and my hard work against my opponent and his hard work. You know, it's that team sports are awesome. Team sports are really cool. You know, you get to learn a lot about teamwork and communication. Sure. But one-on-one sports hits different. It's like it's really cool for me. And then after the high school wrestling season got over, I was kind of left in a void. Should I go back to team sports? And then a friend of mine introduced me to a place called Purebred Jiu Jitsu. Okay. And then I walked into my first class, and I learned a whole bunch of really cool moves, and that was it. From day one, I was hooked. It's physical puzzle solving at a high intensity.
And this was still in Guam?
Yes, my first 6 months of jiu-jitsu was in Guam. Okay. And then after that, I moved to Dubai for my first couple of years of university.
How did that happen, from Guam to Dubai?
So I had lived in Dubai as a kid.
Okay.
From when I was a baby till I was around 9 years old. Okay. And I had quite a few like uncles and connections in Dubai. So it just seemed like the logically easy, safe choice to go to university here. Yes. And then I ended up coming here, and I was already kind of hooked on jiu-jitsu. So for me, a very big thing was to find out like if there's jiu-jitsu or not in Dubai. At the time, was very little. Yeah. It was in 2008.
Oh, okay. Oh, so Emirates Jiu-Jitsu was before Team Noguiera, right?
Yes, and actually even before that. So even before there was Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Center, there used to be a few of us, like 10 or 15 of us, that used to train in this place near Mazaya Center. Okay. And it used to be like 3 times a week. So the mats are very small. A few of us actually still train together, and we're all kind of black belts right now.
What was the gym called?
It was called Black Belt Center.
Oh, okay, Rio's place.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was in 2008.
Amazing.
So we used to train at Rio's place at the Black Belt Center. Yes. And then I trained there for about a year and some, maybe a year. And then when I heard that they're gonna open Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Center, I was on it. I was checking every day on the, like, please, are you gonna open now? Are you gonna open today? Tomorrow? When are you gonna open? And on the first day of Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Center, I was there. And then we started training, and it was awesome.
Man, this is perfect. So you're like patient 01 on Emirates Jiu-Jitsu. Like you were there from the beginning.
On the first day of Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Center, I was there.
Wow. Okay. And what was that like? Because they started off trying to promote jiu-jitsu for the Emirate, right? They were trying to get a competitive team and things like this.
It was really cool at the time, because it was still like relatively sort of not as big as it is right now. Right now, like the level in Abu Dhabi with the tournaments right now is really high. So at the time, there were a couple of tournaments. They had, I think, the first World Pro that year. Yes. Yeah, they had the first World Pro in 2009, I believe. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it was still brand new. It was outdoors at the tennis stadium. Where they had like they had firecrackers, and then some of the firecrackers spilled over into the stadium at that time.
I gotta love it.
It was really cool. There was a lot of people coming in, and it was slowly starting to pick up. The Abu Dhabi team was already, they had the generation that is now black belts used to be blue belts back then. So like all the guys, like I have good friends there, Talib, Ahmed, Numan, they were blue belts at the time. And even Faisal Al-Kiddi was a blue belt at the time.
Right.
So it was really cool to, at that time, to see that whole vibe, and then to now look back is pretty awesome, huh?
Tell me something, like when you guys were going there, were you competing as well? Like you were a white belt or a blue belt?
I was a blue belt at this time.
And did you guys compete?
Yes, we used to compete every now and then. Yeah, at different. They had the Asian Super Cup, which I was able to get a few medals in that time. They had
nice.
In a year, I think they had like two local tournaments, and then the World Pro at the time in like 2009, 2010.
That is such a beautiful time to experience jiu-jitsu. Like you're part of the history of jiu-jitsu of the UAE.
Yeah, man.
I see. And so you started there and you continued all the way until they opened Team Noguiera, right?
In between, I went to London for a couple of years to finish my university.
Okay.
So I was training with Rafael in the beginning of Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Center, and then I left to go to university. Interesting story. I'll tell you how I met Rafael for the first time. So this is towards the end of, I was training at the Black Belt Center before I moved to the Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Center. I was fighting in World Pro on the first World Pro, and then I'm a blue belt at this time. I bow on the mat, I get on, and my referee is Rafael.
Ooh.
Right, so it's my first opponent. We shake hands. We start fighting. Halfway through, we have to stand up, and I realize I can't close my fist for some reason. And then I see that like this finger is kind of like this. I dislocated my finger, and it's the first time this has ever happened to me. So I look at Rafael, and I just show him my hand. He looks at my hand. He pulls it back in place. He's like, "Okay, you ready? You ready?" And we keep fighting.
Oh man.
And then we keep fighting, and then I was able to win that match. And then
nice.
the second match, Rafael was also my referee, but I lost that match like 2-0, and the finger came out again, and put it back again, and then that's the first time I ever met Rafael. And,
what a beautiful origin story.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. And now after all these years, here we are. He's
wow.
He's my mentor, right?
You never know where the door opens, right? You never know what event you join, what class you attend that'll end up changing your future.
Yeah, man. It's so crazy to think about it.
And like, what did you like about that vibe? Do you remember what was it that drew you towards Emirates Jiu-Jitsu and Rafael as an instructor? What was different that you felt?
Oh man, like it's just the energy of the room. I think the energy of the instructor and the energy of the room makes up everything. It's infectious.
Can you describe that? Like what about the energy?
So we used to come in, and used to be a very high energy warm up with everybody feeling like we're very enthusiastic, and in our drills we're very enthusiastic, and
nice.
Being in that room, there's no other way but then to be like high energy and really want to push yourself.
Makes sense.
And at the end of the class, you just lie down and just gasp for air, and they give high fives, and it's an awesome time.
The endorphins just fly through you because you had an intense workout.
Yep.
And so you went to London, and while you were there, did you go into any special academies there?
Yes, I was training at the time a Roger Gracie affiliate at a Mill Hill BJJ with Nick Brooks and Daniel Strauss.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so I was training with these two guys, and it was a really good experience. I got to travel to Brazil during that time. I stayed in Brazil for like a month in Copacabana and trained with De La Riva.
Amazing.
At his academy. That was really awesome. It was a really good experience to feel the energy of Brazil, and to learn about the culture, and then to train with the guy who invented the De La Riva guard. It was something amazing.
That's a dream come true. Like this was around 2012, 13?
This was 2012, or this was the end of 2011. I went to Brazil.
Okay.
And my tenure in London ended in June 2012.
And this is a very exciting time for jiu-jitsu, because like this is the time when jiu-jitsu is exploding as a competitive sport. Really, because like you think about it, since from 2010 to 2015, I feel like is a very important period in Jiu-Jitsu's history as competition. Like this is when we had rise to really big names. Braulio Estimo was kicking ass. Buchecha was entering the scene in a big way. How did it feel being in Brazil during that time?
Man, yeah, it's so crazy because I was able to experience the Tijuca Tennis Club. Like the iconic Tijuca Tennis Club.
You went for an event there?
Yeah, to the Rio Open over there. You know, on the mats where where Hajar and Jacare had their battles on those green and yellow mats too. And then, you know, you see all these names which you've only watched on YouTube, and they're live.
Amazing.
That's the first time I saw Igor Silva. He hit a flying triangle on somebody, and for me it was like these 200 kilo dudes. This 110 kilo guy jumps flying triangle on the other one. Man, it was sensory overload because you know it's you know, of course we're used to seeing like highlights on YouTube. You know, we've all seen that Marcelo Garcia highlight on YouTube where he arm drags everybody. But to be able to see like, you know, all these like monsters in live, and man, it was really amazing, especially as things were starting to take off. Yes. And all these careers were starting to rise.
It's interesting because I've talked to a bunch of people that went from normal beginnings, and by normal, nothing wrong with it, just like a typical gym training, and then they decided they want to go competitive. And they said something that's really important for them is to touch the top level. And what does that mean? It's like you're a basketball player and you've been playing in high school and with your friends on the beach and stuff. And then you suddenly, an NBA player, he's on holiday with his family. He steps on the basketball court and plays with you guys. That one moment could change your basketball career because you touch the greatness of the sport. Did you feel that moment in Brazil?
Oh, I agree. It's, you know, at the high level, they operate at a different RPM. Okay. It's just the amount of information that they're calculating per second in terms of the moves that they're doing is at such a high level that to be able to see that, like, this is what it takes to fight at this level. You need to be able to think in terabytes per second. You know, it's like let's say at blue belt you think in megabytes per second, in grab the collar, grab the pants, move left, move right. At the black belt elite level, these guys are thinking terabytes per second. These the split second between which like decisions are made is so cool. It's so you have to really feel it to understand what it is, because maybe on video, when you watch it, you can maybe perceive, but the invisible part, like the tension, the timing, the angle, and like the speed, you can only feel.
Yeah, man, it's I can totally understand what you're saying, and I like the comparison to megabytes and kilobytes and then terabytes. And like for some reason in my head, I heard the dial-up tone on white belts. But I totally understand what you're saying, because Elon Musk is working on this thing called Neuralink, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about this, he's saying that we usually think at a rate of whatever, like imagine it's a gigabyte, all right? Or let's say he was saying something like 500 megabytes per second. It's like, this will make you think in a terabyte. You wouldn't even have to talk to convey something. So what you're saying is that leap between a normal, let's say, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt to a competitive black belt, that's that kind of leap.
Yes. And I'll tell you from my experience. Like, I'm very lucky that I train and teach at Team Noguiera Dubai. Okay. So our gym is known for being able to host amazing seminars.
Oh yeah.
Because our boss Sheikh Tariq brings in the best in the world to come train, right? So it's like Team Noguiera is where the best in the world come to train, right?
Yes.
So I'm blessed that I've been able to see such a high level up close, and you've been to some of our seminars, right?
Yeah, I came for the Buchecha one, and I came for the Leo Vieira one.
Yeah, and just to see that when you watch a video, it's something, but when you see them up close, and maybe they demonstrate a technique on you, and you feel the tension in their wrist or their knee, and it just changes your mind completely towards what's what to do.
That's true. That is very true. And you've also, because you've been so like, let's say you're always in Team Noguiera, whether you're training or teaching. So you're always absorbing whatever vibe there is, whatever talent comes in. And Sheikh Tar is also always training, and he's always bringing these unique people with him to train.
like I think his thirst for knowledge is good for all of us.
Exactly.
Because we, yeah. So we get to like kind of absorb all the techniques as well.
Man, that's such a blessing to be in this environment. Like we forget how lucky we are sometimes. Like even here in Abu Dhabi, like with Mubadal Arena and with like Igor Silva next door and Ricardo Evangelista over there. It's like, oh man, we're flooded with all of this touching greatness kind of idea based on what we're saying. What did you feel made the biggest difference in your jiu-jitsu as you were growing up the ranks?
Well, there was like a transition period in like in my brown belt time where I kind of started teaching like full time.
Okay.
So up until then, it was only training, and once in a while maybe helping out with some classes or something,
Sure.
and mostly training. When I started teaching, and I started to have to understand other people's perspectives on the move, and not necessarily just mine or how I perceive a move, then it forced me to start looking for answers to their perspective, because
Yes.
not necessarily has the same body type. Not everybody necessarily has the same kind of tenacity. Not everybody has the same I don't know, flexibility as me. So to find answers based on mechanics and structure, and then to really study, it helped me evolve a whole lot, and to really understand moves like holistically, not just for me, but like as a whole, and then to be able to apply it to myself.
Man, that makes so much sense. Like you hear it a lot. And I'm sure everybody listening has heard this at one point. They're like, it's different. When you start teaching jiu-jitsu, that's when you really learn. And I think it's like you put it well. You become responsible for your jiu-jitsu. Before, your coach is responsible for your jiu-jitsu. And you're just learning and you're trying and applying. And if you fuck up, he looks at you like, no, that's not how you do it. This is how you do it. Then somewhere down the line, when you start teaching, you become responsible. Because somebody's looking at you and asking, why did you do that?
And it's, in the beginning, it was a bit nerve-wracking, because like what I say is going to determine how this person is going to apply that move, and then they're either going to fail or they're going to succeed. And in the beginning, it's like, oh my God, I really hope this move works for him, so that way, so the move is correct.
That's so true.
But then as time passes, I'll talk about this in a few minutes about the 4 quadrants of learning, and everybody has to pass through it to be able to apply moves on themselves. Or if you want, we can discuss it now.
Please, as well.
Whenever learning something like a move or a new concept, people pass through 4 quadrants of learning. The first I call unconscious incompetence, which means you're doing something wrong and you don't know what you were doing wrong.
Okay.
That's like the first. That's the first stage of a move. And then when you start like practicing a little bit, you start developing conscious incompetence, which means you did something wrong, but you can say oh man, I should have kept my elbow closed. Oh man, I should have like put my chin down. Oh man, I should have shifted my hips or something. That's unconscious that's conscious incompetence. And then comes a very good stage, conscious competence, which is like when you do something right, you're like, I did that move perfect. That was good. I grabbed the wrist right. I did it at the right time. And then one day will come unconscious competence, which is the best.
Next level.
Which is when a scramble happens in the flow state and you do a bunch of stuff and it ends up falling into place. And later you're like, how did I do that? Did someone see that, what I did? It's because your body just reacts, and it's no more about thinking. It's just doing. So in any move, like whenever you learn like a new guard or something, there's a series of techniques you need to learn. There's certain grips or certain concepts, certain timings. In the beginning, you have to drill it at a very slow pace to even make your body like react a certain way. And then you have to try it on, let's say, lower belts.
Yes.
To try, and you still have some room for error because you can compensate with your skill. And then once you get your reps in, a few hundred, a few thousand reps, things start flowing. And then without even thinking, the move just happens.
Yes.
And this, so whenever teaching somebody, I tell them like, hey, you gotta go through the stages of learning before it's gonna work for you, and then if you persist enough and do the drills and do enough sparring and try to apply it in sparring, there's gonna come a time where it's gonna be second nature and it's gonna work. And it's perfect.
The way you explain that, the way you explain that, Rick, is like the magic formula for how I understand and how a lot of people understand. Because especially when you talk about something as complex as jiu-jitsu and you're trying to teach them and make them believe that one day they can train like that guy, you know, you have to give them some kind of visual, figurative journey so that they can go on that journey with you. And the way you put that from unconscious incompetence to all the way on to unconscious competence, it makes perfect sense. And it encourages you to just go for the grind and drill and keep repeating and hitting things.
Man, 100%. You know, need to keep sharpening that blade.
Yes.
Need to keep sharpening that blade all day long until it's super sharp. So when you need to slice something, it slices right through.
Yeah.
You know, I like to see all moves. Like it's like we have a bunch of like swords like stacked in our back. So you have like a half guard here. That's medium sharpness, and you have an open guard here that's really sharp, and then you have like a guard, you know. So it's our job as practitioners, to spend time sharpening our blades, and then when we need it, we have it.
I love it. So okay, since we're going down this figurative path, if you had a weapon back there, what would it look like? Your favorite weapon? Is it a sharp long sword? Is it a short stabby sword? What kind of a weapon does it look like?
No, so you gotta have a couple of long swords. You gotta have a ninja star for the close range.
Oh shit! Okay.
Man. So of course, everybody has a certain body type.
Yes.
That's gonna be a certain type of game. You know, like people with long legs, flexible legs, close guard, triangle will be easier than to pass half guard, for example.
Yes.
People with shorter legs, stockier body will have an easier time going for like deep half guard, going for X guard, going for butterfly guard, right? And people with shorter legs have a better time doing like certain types of passes. People who are taller have a better time doing other types of passes, and it's all attribute based, you know.
Yes.
So depending on the person, they're gonna have a different setup.
Yes.
100%. Like in boxing, the person that has a long reach is more likely to play an outside game, like jab cross from the outside.
Muhammad Ali.
Person that is a bit shorter and stockier is more likely to come in and go to the body with like hooks and stuff. So same here. So, you know, I have my attributes that I try my best to mold my own game. Every single person has their own attributes. And of course, our job as coaches is to suggest what would be ideal based on, you know, on their body type, on their athleticism and stuff. So like I like to say I have a long sword, I have a short sword, I have a ninja star, and I have one bazooka.
One bazooka, man. That's the thing. As you level up and as you hit, you're being very modest. You're a black belt, you know, so you're being humble with how many weapons you have. I tend to go for like a meat tenderizer, a hammer, just pressure, smash. But this you hit a very interesting point that I've never talked about with somebody on this podcast, which is some people, their body, their skill set, their energy levels are designed for a certain type of game. But you have to teach everybody all of jiu-jitsu, right? They have to learn every single position. But some people, what happens is they're like white belts or even blue belts, and they learn, let me think of like an example. Let's say guillotines, right? Some people, they love the guillotine. They can wrap that leg around the opponent before they sit down. They can make it very tight. And some people, they just don't feel flexible enough. Their hooks on the side of the bodies aren't good enough. And they start hating guillotine. What's the line that you teach people to say, is this for you or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like with this, I think in terms of like learning, I think everybody should learn everything.
Okay.
So in terms of like technical knowledge, I mean, it's like everybody should be open to learning everything in terms of like how it works, what are the mechanics. Maybe not necessarily make it your A game, your A game strategy, but to understand the ins and out of how this works. Maybe one day you will have a student that does fit that body type, and then you'll be able to give them the information that you have because you studied. So in class, when learning, I think everybody should learn everything, and they should, you know, put in a few reps to feel the move, you know, how it fits with their body. I think with enough time, everybody can learn to apply everything. But some moves are going to take some people much longer than others.
Yes.
Because the application is going to be harder. So there's going to be more obstacles to the move working for let's just give the most stereotype example. For a triangle, if you have shorter legs, it's a little bit harder If you have long legs, it's a little bit easier, right?
Yes.
But if a short person puts in enough time of sharpening that triangle to such a degree, it will work. There's no doubt it will work, but it will take them a longer time to sharpen it than it will for the person with longer legs.
For sure.
And that's all. So like, if the person feels like the move is not going to work for them, we just let them know. Like it might be harder to work for them, but with enough time and like enough repetition and a little bit of modification to compensate for the body type, every move is possible for everybody.
This is going to expand enormously right now. We're about to go into an entropy state, as friends would like to say. So what you're saying actually has a very big impact on people's jiu-jitsu career. Here's the thing with competition. When a person competes, they start the competition, they might lose miserably their first 2 or 3 or 4. Eventually, they're going to catch wind of what's working for them in competition. And they're going to stick to it and sharpen the shit out of it. It's going to become super sharp. They're going to neglect those parts. Like if they're short legs, they're never going to do a triangle because, man, that doesn't work in competition. I'm a competitor. So they're going to win their competitions and get promoted because they're winning their division. They're white belt. They won everybody. They're blue belt. They beat everybody purple, brown. They just won the world. Why shouldn't I promote them? But they don't do triangle because they're dependent on their strong weapons. Then on the other side, you have guys that don't compete, that sit in the gym and grind out that triangle. The professor's going to look at them and be like, man, he's not improving. But it's just taking him longer to improve because his legs are shorter. So where you get where I'm going with this? Like there's a weird thing that happens in jiu-jitsu. Some guys get promoted quick because they're focusing on their sharpest weapons. Some guys take very long time because they're sharpening their dull weapons.
So this comes down to like I think the competitor versus the martial artist.
Okay.
Right.
Ooh. Okay.
And so yes. So for competition, it's a competition game. You have to take your sharpest. You have to take only your sharp blades. You have to take only your best weapons. You have to have a strategy. You have to try to draw your opponent into your strategy and try to like funnel them into the best version of your game, which is perfect. Which is actually in every sport, that's how it goes. In basketball, like they have a strategy to funnel the opponent into their weaknesses and into our strength. That's like how it works in basketball, in football, in every sport. That being said, competition is a good part of the martial art, but I believe the martial art is bigger than competition.
Very true.
So like all the best competitors, they're able to perform moves at such a high level. Like you watch Lucas Lepri do his knee cut. It's one of my favorite things to watch. I can watch it on replay 500 times and not be tired. You see Lian Lo do his torado. You see Hamil Labahal spider guard. So they've sharpened it to such a degree that it's perfect, and that's what works for them in competition. But then also there needs to be modes of training in the training room. Maybe if it's away from a competition, where you kind of delve into other games too. I mean, just to have that balance, because one day, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are going to end up being teachers or role models. And one day, hey, but coach, could you show me some spider guard sweep? Sorry, man, I only do half guard. No, it needs to be like, I have a few moves I can give you. And I mean, so maybe in the competitive, while the competition grind, it's actually good to focus on the competition game because that's how you win.
Right.
And you see it. You see like repetitive patterns in competitions where like you already know if this person gets these grips, it's over. Yes. If this person gets this like a single leg X, it's over. You already know, and it's amazing to watch.
Yes.
But then that's who you need to study if you want to study that game, because there's the excellent version of that game.
That's very.
But for
true.
the average person, it's like jiu-jitsu is so awesome. Like like all the guards are awesome. Every single guard, like butterfly guard is awesome. Half guard is awesome. De La Riva worm guard is so awesome nowadays with all the innovations.
Yep.
Like even if you don't play it as your game, just to be able to like, wow, like look at this art. It's like we're looking at a beautiful painting. You see some of the stuff that like all these guys do, and it's like looking at a beautiful like sculpture. Like, wow, you spent years sharpening this. Let me learn like a little bit about this.
100%.
That's how I feel.
I think you hit the nail on the head, which is like the differentiating factor between an athlete and a martial artist, because this is really where it sets it apart. Because this is what most people struggle with. Most people, their why for doing jiu-jitsu starts off as in order to be able to defend myself and defeat my opponent. So they immediately look at competitions and be like, if I can win a competition, I've achieved my objective. But then they start letting go of that martial artist path, which is what you said. Somebody asks me a question and I need to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And man, and the awesome thing is probably none of us will ever have all the answers. There's always going to be a question for which you're going to have to ask somebody else for the answer. And then it's just exciting to find out new things, you know, because I think as humans, our need for growth is like a strong driving factor. Like once you feel you know everything, it's a bit demotivating that, like, you know, there's no more forward momentum in terms of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think let's just keep studying forever and ever.
This is the beauty. I honestly think that people who start jiu-jitsu early in life, they face this. They face this struggle between understanding what a martial artist is and an athlete. And this is like the duty of the, not to say the older, but the more experienced practitioners to impact the younger ones. Younger ones go for the competition, for the gold, for the medals, for this. And they don't realize it until they get older that they want to continue this martial art. And now they need to shift their focus. I've talked to professional competitors that say, my whole life, jiu-jitsu was about the medals and competing and the pohada. And then suddenly I needed to find another reason to go to the gym.
You know, yeah. I think that's quite common in the younger kids who started off from day one as like the competition mindset. I think that's more common in that.
Yep.
But also at the same time, it's so beautiful to see, like especially like there were some people that were blue belts a few years ago, and now they're black belts. Like I was watching the Pan Ams, like Jonathan Alves. I remember watching videos of him as a blue belt, and now he's on that, and now he was able to win the black belt Pan Ams.
Yep.
To see the level of precision in his game as it evolved over the years, it's so cool. Wow. And I think that level of excellence in like that particular game can only be achieved through like that competition mindset. So in his particular game, if you want to study, he's the guy to study, because he's the best version of that game. So, you know, same like when like Rafa Mendes was innovating the berimbolo. So the berimbolo has existed for a long time. This is a controversial topic, obviously, but I think the one who innovated it and brought it to the masses in like 2011, 2010 was Rafa Mendes at the time. It's existed from before, where you know, from De La Riva guard, but the reason he was able to make it such a high percentage technique is because he was training to apply it on the best. Like he was focused on sharpening that blade so much that it could cut through a diamond, you know? And so now the gold standard for for all martial artists is to study that.
Yeah.
And then after studying that, now it's Mikey Musumeci who studied that and then sharpened it even further.
Yes.
And now it's even more. So like it's a fine balance between, you know, because the most excellent version of the art is always going to be in the competition scene, because the best so-and-so guard, the best so-and-so guard pass, you're always going to need to study the best in the world who does it in order to understand the best version of it.
Makes perfect sense.
You know?
And do you feel that we have a competitor, like who would you consider as a competitor with the most complete jiu-jitsu game? Or does that even exist?
Man, in my opinion, the most complete jiu-jitsu, I feel like, just because I've met him and I've Lucas Lepri, man.
Ooh, okay.
There are many athletes, of course, that have amazing games, and it's gonna be a disservice not naming all of them.
Of course.
But this is a bit biased. Bit biased, but I'll say it. In my opinion, this might not be the absolute truth.
Yes.
But in my opinion, from what I've experienced, and I've had a chance to converse with him, Lucas Lepri, man. You know, just in terms of everything, in guard and in top, in takedowns, in the entire game. And for those of you that don't believe me, go watch his last Worlds run. Not a single point score.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think there's an important thing to say here, because I've seen Lucas Lepri in Team Nogueira. I didn't train with him, but I've seen his seminars. There's some athletes that are incredible, but they just can't teach. They don't know the technique verbally. They know it physically. Lucas Lepri seems to be the kind of guy that's like this shooting star, which can perfectly like accomplish the technique in competition, but can also teach it very well to a class, to a brand new guy.
Yes, and it's from beginner to advanced. Yeah, I think he's able to like portray his words and like enunciate his ideas in such a way.
Makes sense.
That it's bite-sized information for all appetites.
I got you. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because I want to understand something with regards to the belts. So as you were leveling up in jiu-jitsu, how dear did you hold the belt system to your jiu-jitsu journey? Was it important to you which belt you were?
To be completely honest, like in the beginning, from white to blue belt, I was like, oh God, please, I just really want a blue belt.
Okay.
And then there was one day where I got my blue belt, and the next day I came to training and everything was the same. I was like, wait, it was supposed to be some like magical light shining on my head when I walk in now, because I'm a blue belt, right? And then that was the first year of training. I had that mentality. But then somewhere along the way, I kind of like forgot about the belt. I just kind of got lost in like learning sections of the game. Like there would be seasons. There would be one season where I really wanted to study over-under passing, and then that would go like 6 months or whatever. I would just try it on, try perfecting it, and then I would get bored of it, and then there would be a season where I try only playing deep half guard, like 6 months, 5 months with that, and then with time, like kind of like, oh, now I'm a purple belt. All right, you really think I'm a purple belt? Okay, sure. All right, cool. And then we kept going, we kept training, and then other techniques, other positions, kept studying, and and then one day, whoa, I'm a brown belt. Really? Okay, cool. I'm a brown belt now. That's awesome. Like that's really cool.
There were pleasant surprises.
Yeah, it was just like kind of like of course there were special days for me. I have all the dates written down.
Nice.
I truly appreciate the days I got these belts. There's no doubt about that.
Of course.
But I see them as a byproduct of just what I was doing. Like it's just me being jiu-jitsu nerd, just like buying all the DVDs and like taking notes after class, and like watching the higher belts roll and trying to like copy what they're doing. And one day you just get a belt and you're like, oh man, really? Okay, now I'm one of the purple belts. Now I'm one of the brown belts. One day I got a black belt. I said, man, who saw this coming? That was cool, and that was an amazing day. I didn't. It took me a few days for it to compute that, like, wow, I started jiu-jitsu on February 27, 2008. I got my black belt on December 13 or 14, 2016.
Oh, whoa, it's been 4 years?
Yes, I've been a black belt for 4 years now.
Man, okay, cool. It feels like yesterday I was in Team Nogueira. Yeah, wow. And like, how was it? What was that moment like when you got your black belt? Was it what people imagine it is? Was it how? Can you describe it to us?
Man, like in the moment, it was a bit overwhelming, to be honest, because it's all these years you kind of like have this idea, and like when you first start jiu-jitsu, you look at black belt, and you can't even fathom that the fact that you're gonna have a black belt. Like it's too far it's too far down the line, But then on the day you get it, you just kind of like look back at all the awesome memories you have of training, all the cool things you learned, all the cool friends you made, and the fact that I was able to share that moment with a lot of the people that I was white belts with was
crazy.
Awesome, was really cool. Because I remember there's a few of us, we were all white belts together learning our first few arm bars. There's like a few of us. Oh man. And then we got our black belts on the same day. Man, that was a really special moment. And then we all kind of just like
absolutely incredible. Like I just imagine this whole process, like when a person gets their black belt, and like hearing you talk about it the way you do makes me so much more impressed with the human brain, the human machine. Like to go from completely incapable, you can't even lock an arm bar properly, you use the wrong grips, to get to black belt within 8 to 10 years. It's impressive, man.
Man, okay, this is one thing I try to instill in my kids. So I'm very passionate about my kids program,
Yes.
and this is something I try to instill in all the kids and all of them. Uh, through some hard work and commitment
Mm-hmm.
and a series of highly actionable steps, you
Mm-hmm.
can achieve anything, like anything and everything. You can set any goal you want for yourself and just break it down into like chapter goals, and then each chapter into section goals. And all you have to do is follow section by section. By the time you hit a chapter, then go on to the next chapter, section by section. It could be whatever goal you want. It's a series of choices that you're gonna make, and you have control over yourself to make those choices, and you can achieve anything you want, anything and everything. So, like the black belt. Now, when I talk to my students, I say, yes, the black belt seems a bit far away, but if you just got to take it one day at a time, one technique at a time, one session at a time. When you compile these 111 times 365 times 5 or 8 or 10, it's inevitable you're going to get your black belt. Every one of you, just if you just go day by day, you're going to get your black belt one day. It is overwhelming to think about the big picture, but it's so actionable and easy, and not easy, possible to achieve through the right steps, which you're all in control of. Okay, so that's how I kind of motivate my kids. Okay, kids, let's make sure we wake up and make the right decision every day. You are responsible for your own decisions, and 10 years from now, you're going to look back at this moment and be glad that you made the right decision.
Man, that's such a beautiful role model approach with kids, and I can see already why you have such successful kids in jiu-jitsu. I've seen your kids competing. I've seen you, man, at tournaments. It's always super impressed. I want to get into this obviously in a bit, but like I was always impressed by how committed and dedicated you are as a coach. You're there in the bullpen. You're making sure they're okay. You're checking you there. Then you go and you shout and you cheer and you come back to it's a lot of energy you're spending, but some people look at it as spending energy. I see as like you're investing it in these kids, even though they're not even your own.
No, I see them as my own. Like the amount of ownership I take over these kids, like it's like this. Right now, I'm lucky that I'm able to work with such talented kids that I'm able to give them some information, some jiu-jitsu, some values like discipline and hard work, and to see it resonate in them. And one day they're gonna grow up. Like some of them are gonna go on to do awesome things. They're gonna do great things, and there's gonna be a little part of my teaching which is gonna stay with them. And one day they're gonna teach somebody else.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And that's awesome. That's why I do this. So yes, it's a little bit of hard work, but I don't see it as hard work. I see it as my purpose. Like this is what I was put on earth to do. Like I was put on earth to do this, and I'm gonna do this to the best of my ability, and that's how it's gonna go.
What an amazing thing to be able to say that's my purpose. So many people have a very hard time with that. What's your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you in this life? A lot of people live their entire lives and they can't even answer that. So it's so nice to hear somebody feel that committed to their purpose. I wanted to ask you something about Team Noguiera. I know you guys have a different system of promoting. Most gyms, the coach looks at the student like, hey, how long you been a blue belt? 5 years? Okay, take your purple belt. You guys have a systematic approach towards this. Am I right?
Yes.
How does that work?
So of course, we always keep our eye out for there's certain outliers whom like you said, like those, like the competitors for whom we do we keep our eye out. But then for the general student, we've set a series of minimum eligibility criteria to be able to consider for your next belt. So and for each one, it's successively harder. Just because you're eligible doesn't mean you're gonna get it. Okay. Once you meet the eligibility, now you're under consideration for the belt. And then we also have an exam. Now the reason for the exam is not everybody competes. Like we have people training at our gym that we start at 6, we go all the way to 62, I believe. We go all the way to 62 or 63. Not everybody competes, right? Like your your average 49-year-old mom might not want to compete in the World Pro next year,
For sure.
right? But for someone like that to be able to like achieve personal goals and personal targets, we've set a very like sort of realistic way for everyone to be able to test themselves. So once they meet our eligibility criteria, we start their considerations, and then we invite them for an exam. And in the exam, they have to demonstrate technical proficiency. And like when someone's able to articulate a move and like teach it a certain way, that their depth of knowledge in that move might not be black belt competition level, but for considering their goals, their age, their ability, their body type, they are so and so level.
Yes.
Right. So like for our younger athletes, like 18-year-olds, of course, it's a different requirement. It's obviously going to be harder for someone testing for their blue belt who does it part-time and is 60 years old. It's going to be a little bit different. So so we've sort of standardized it. And so once you meet the eligibility criteria, we consider it, and then you have to pass an exam, and there we go.
Could you give me an example of like eligibility from white to blue belt?
Okay, so it would be a certain amount of time, a certain number of classes, within a certain duration of time.
Okay, that's the primary factor.
Yes.
And then what comes after that? Is it directly to the test?
No. Then it's once the person passes a certain number, then we kind of like, between us coaches, we have a roundtable discussion. All right.
I see.
This person is now in the loop.
Okay.
So then we make sure that between all of us, we all do our little eagle eye scouting, our eagle eye scouting behind the scenes.
Okay.
And then they get invited.
I see. So it's not just like 4 stripes and then it's a matter of time. It's like there's more to it than your stripes. There's more to it than the time you attend. There's a test. Have you had people fail tests?
Yes. In the past, there, of course, it's unfortunate when it happens, but same like anything else, we take quality very seriously.
Yep, that's important. It's important for people to fail in tests.
Yeah. Yes, no, absolutely. And same like any test, before the test, you need to study. And it's pretty obvious who shows up well prepared, well studied, and who kind of just, shows up like last minute, right? So it's unfortunate when it happens, but it does. But we as coaches, of course, during our teachings of like, all the time, we try to make sure to have a well-rounded approach to make sure all our students understand everything. We always tell everybody, any doubts, ask questions. We're here to answer your questions. But once in a while, these unfortunate things happen. But hey, we got to set the quality standard high.
So here's the thing. I understand white belt to blue, blue to brown, to purple, purple to brown. But then what's the test like from a brown belt, to a black belt? Because that's got to be different.
Yes. This is highly proprietary information. We're going to have to sign an NDA to be able to. No, I'm kidding. No. So I think I think it's common knowledge now that the 2 most turbulent times are from white to blue and from blue to purple.
True.
It's like if someone makes from white to blue, there's a chance that they might not stick around, and when they make it to if they make it to purple, there's a pretty good chance they're in it for the home stretch.
Yes. Right.
And then from brown to like once someone gets a brown belt, given enough time, it's pretty much sure that they're gonna get a black belt one day if they just keep going. Yes. Right. Yeah. So like for the brown to black belt test, it's a formality. To be completely honest, it's a formality. I see. It's not the same as white to blue.
So you would say what would be the most important belt for you to be like, yeah, this guy's jiu-jitsu for life? From what you're saying, that's purple. Because once you get from blue to purple, that's it. They're set. I see.
I really believe when someone makes purple, I think once you make purple belt, because you've like gone more than halfway
Yes.
towards black belt, right? So then I think it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. Like you hear about the statistics, it's I think it was 70% of blue belts quit before their next belt. I think it was like some scary figure like that.
Yes, it's very unfortunate.
Do you think that's accurate based on your coaching experience? Like, do you see that high of a drop off from blue belt?
Yes, and like I said earlier, I think it's because of the early fixation on the outcome.
Yeah.
It's like a psychological thing. So from the beginning, if the goal is blue belt, like
Right.
that's the goal. Like from the beginning, you're training for the blue belt. You're training for the blue belt, and one day you're gonna get your blue belt.
Yeah.
But because you've built it, like or not you, but like there's people that built it up so much in their heads that blue belt is the goal. To shift back to zero again is psychologically really, really, really tough. And to be honest, like one day you're a white belt, one day you get your blue belt, the next day you come to training, it's the same people, everything is this, it's another path in your journey. So now when white belts come in, I try my best to let them know to think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's about making this your lifestyle, and making this a habit, and then all the goals will just get achieved along the way.
Yeah.
It's like sort of create the lifestyle in a way that achieving these goals is inevitable. And then one day they're all going to be black belts, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely turning jiu-jitsu into a part of your routine rather than a target. It will go a long way. I think because there's this dialogue that you hear, which is you hear everybody should be at least a blue belt in life. I've heard this on many podcasts. I've heard this from many professors. They're saying they believe that everybody should at least get their blue belt in jiu-jitsu to be capable of self-defense, for a woman to be able to defend themselves. So you get this seed planted in a lot of people's mind where it's like, I just want to get my blue belt. To them, they believe that is enough to be okay, which is true. It's not false. By the time you get your blue belt, you're way better than the majority of people on the streets. But it kind of sets a very low, like you said, I'd rather aim high and miss than aim low and hit it. Everybody's aiming low with that.
Man, yeah, that is 100% true. And as coaches, we do our best to paint the bigger picture. And I mean, it's with time, it's been working. People are a lot more open to just the process and achieving their one day black belt. Like you know how it is. So before, there were some people that got their blue belts with you, in the same generation as you.
Yes.
Out of all the people that got the same generation as you, blue belts, how many of them are purple belts with you right now?
Yeah, very few.
And I'm pretty sure the people that are purple belts with you are kind of just like you. Just do it for the love. Do it for. I mean, the belt is just a tie around our waist. Let's go have some fun. Let's roll. Let's try this new move I learned on YouTube. Let's go study this new move we saw on Flow Grappling. Right?
Exactly. It's a major shift.
And the more people that can shift into that, the more black belts we're going to have in the future. And that's just the way it is,
I wanted to touch up on a little bit of psychology with you. Again, off the podcast, we talked about a shining star that you've taught, but there's a lot of shining stars that you've taught as well. But with Lola, for example, and I see Lola on the chat saying hi and missing you and all of these things. So she sends you a lot of love. With kids, it's a lot more different than an adult because a kid, you have so many opportunities as an instructor. It's not just to teach them how to fight, you're teaching them life. It's huge. Like people underestimate what martial arts can do to a person's path in life. So what's in the forefront of your mind when you're teaching kids psychologically?
All right. So every kid that walks in our door is unique. And the needs of every kid is also unique. We have a few fundamental pillars which we try and instill in our kids. It's discipline, respect, focus, patience, and hard work. These are the 5 things we try to instill fundamentally. From day one, during our teachings, we try to enforce that these 5 conditions are met and that all our kids are able to accept these as the norm. So from the beginning.
Okay.
Along the way, there's, there are some kids that walk in with low self-confidence. They walk in and they don't shake your hand very, very solid. They don't make eye contact. With those type of kids, it's about boosting their self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
It's about teaching them that, through hard work, they can overcome the adversity. And then one day when they actually manage to get a takedown, they're like, oh my, like their self-belief increases. Like it's really cool to see the shift in their eyes after a year of training where they're walking around shaking everybody's hand, introducing themselves because they believe in themselves now, because they were able to like train, and now they're able to do takedowns on some people, and where previously they would have been scared. So that's one thing. There are some kids that come in with a bit more aggression. Like kids are full of energy, and with those kids, it's about channeling their aggression in the right avenue.
Yes.
It's about like sort of kind of like guiding them to like not go all over the place with their aggression, but to like put it in their guard pass, put it in their takedown, and like kind of teach them a bit of discipline and respect, and then teach them how to like use that energy that they have.
Yes.
But in this game we created now called takedowns or whatever, and like this, we have many kids that walk in, and each one has a different need, and we do our best to like accommodate them. Some cool things are attitude towards failure. As you know, it's inevitable in jiu-jitsu. One day you're gonna get smashed.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how good you are. There's always someone that's gonna smash you.
Yes.
And I truly believe, like philosophically, this is a part of life. One day you're gonna face defeat, like in the form of, I don't know, like you're maybe losing your job or something. And in the future, these kids are gonna be able to like brush off failure and accept it. Like this, yes, I accept that I lost right now.
Yes.
But guess what? I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna wipe my face. I'm gonna try again. And this carries over into life. Like to be able to deal with failure and not get overly emotional over like little failures. And in the beginning, when kids lose, they cry. It's normal. Like the first couple days, the kid comes in, and like loses a game and starts crying. But then later on, they learn that, it's okay. There's going to be another game later on. There's going to be another thing later on. And so there's that.
What do you do in that situation? They come in, they're crying. You as a coach, what do you do? Do you cry with them? What do you do?
No. You know what? I think kids in the end just need a little bit of attention.
Yes.
So if you just talk to that kid and say, hey, how do you feel? Why are you crying? Really? Is that how you really feel right now? I totally understand. But guess what? If you wipe your face right now, we're going to play it again. You want to play it again? It was fun, right? And then they just end up wiping their face. You say a joke, they laugh. You change their state of mind. And then they forget they were crying. And then they go back to it normal. And once you do that enough times, they just stop crying because they associate it positively. So it's, yeah. And then tied to this is learning to overcome obstacles through persistence, which for me is one of my favorite things to watch happen in kids.
Perseverance.
So like, yes, it's I think it's quite known now. Like we live in a day and age of instant gratification. Right. Everything is now. Everything is here. Everything is right now. If not right now, I can't wait. Can't be later. And like in the example of jiu-jitsu, there's some kids, that like they try, let's say, a double leg takedown, and it doesn't work for them. They get sprawled on. They're like, coach, it really doesn't work for me. And then we keep giving them positive reinforcement. We keep helping them correct their techniques. And then one day, everything clicks. They do a perfect duck under into a double leg, and it works. Yes. And then they say, oh my God. And then that translates into everything else they do, because then they start, okay, with enough time and enough persistence, it will work. Like whatever it may be. Not just this technique, but whatever it may be. And that's a really cool thing to see, because when things don't work for those kids, you can see it in their face. They're like, you know what? It's okay. It's not working right now, but guess what? I'm going to work at it, and you're going to see. I'm going to make it work. Man, it brings tears to my eyes. When I see this in a kid, it brings tears to my eyes. Because this set them up for like the future. This kind of attitude.
Yeah, man. Oh my God. Like that's the reason I cannot wait for my son. Like I dabble in jiu-jitsu with my son. I'm very careful because he's still 4 years old. I don't want to get him too, how can I say it, resistant to jiu-jitsu. I make it as if, did you do, like he asked me, he's like, Baba, can I please do jiu-jitsu? I'm like, no, maybe not today. I asked him, did you do your homework? Did you do this? Did you follow your mom's instructions? I has to do a million things to do jiu-jitsu, so that when I say yes, he screams from joy. Like, I'm very careful.
Awesome.
But I see that, especially, sorry?
Man, I'm saying it's going to be so cool one day when he gets older, he's going to choke you out and you're going to cry tears of joy.
Man, like, I can't even imagine. Like, I can't, this to me is heaven. It sounds like something I'd be so proud of at the moment. But like, even like what you're saying is the first goal of mine, because I see him, he's still 4, young, but kids these days, instant gratification, man. When they want entertainment, they got it. When they want food, they got it. Like, it's much faster. And I see it with my son, and I can't wait for that impact of jiu-jitsu. I know it's not going to be easy. Most kids don't accept it easily, that they have to persevere, they have to go harder, but that's something I really look forward to.
You know, I think in my, so over the years of like working with kids of different ages, I think each age bracket of kid has a different way to like start, you know, like in the beginning, it needs to be fun and games. It needs to be like jiu-jitsu. It's like giving medicine in like a candy bar. You know, it's like you're feeding them a pill in mashed potatoes, right? Yeah. So like you make them play like games of like you know, like let's say you put like a sock behind the belt of one kid and the sock behind the belt of the other kid. Hey, go grab that sock from that kid. Don't let him grab your sock. In the end, they're learning how to get underhooks. Yes. You know, and hey, daddy, I got the sock, but I saw you got the underhook, boy.
I like that. Evil.
So it's like that kind of thing. So it's like, so from the ages of like 5, 6 towards 7-ish, that's how it is. Like you gotta just make them play games, and you gotta make them learn jiu-jitsu by mistake. Like they don't even know they're learning jiu-jitsu. They just have a gi on. They play a bunch of games where they're like trying to like, you know, grab each other's legs. You learned a single leg today, but I was just grabbing his leg, Dad. You know, it's like that kind of thing.
Unconscious competence.
Exactly.
I see.
And then from 7 to 9, you can start introducing a little bit of jiu-jitsu. 9 onwards, I find is the best time, because then they start getting very cognizant, and then you can start conversing with them, and you know, and then is an awesome time to start learning. Just when they're like about to enter the infant division is like this is when you can start making kids train like a little bit seriously.
Man, that's so interesting. You clearly have thought this through very well. Between the Team Noguiera, I'm sure you guys have a very well-devised system for teaching kids and even adults. But you personally seem to have given this a lot of thought. Is this based on books, research, trial and error? What do you think this is based on?
It's the answer is D, all of the above. So
okay. I got you.
Makes sense. I told you. So I really like doing what I do. So like when I'm faced with a problem, and which I don't know the answer to, I either find somebody that knows the answer, or I find the book, or I find the article, or I find the video, or something. Sometimes not even a jiu-jitsu version. Sometimes maybe from like a basketball coach talks about a way to engage with students, or a football coach, or a gymnastics coach. Yes. Or you know, and try to like, you know, devise a way to make it, you know, work for me. But the funny enough, in all sports, universally, similar concepts apply to similar age categories. It's because of the amount of information the kids are willing to absorb, right? So, I mean, in gymnastics, or in let's say in basketball, from 5 years old to 7 years old, it's the same. It's kind of like a game. It's kind of like learning by mistake. And then around 9 and 10 is when they start really seriously playing basketball. Okay. So we try to do the same for jiu-jitsu, you know, and of course, I've been teaching for about 8 years now, or 7.5 years now, kids mostly. Wow. So in this time also, with experience, I've learned a lot. Like, example, working with Lola I was able to, you know, teach her a few things. She was able to teach me a whole lot of things. Just by working with her, I learned a lot about how to work with kids. I learned a lot about how a kid's mind works and how a kid perceives information. So I'm really thankful to her to, you know, make me a good coach.
Was it because she could vocalize her thoughts well, or like what was the reason that she was able to teach you so much?
Yes. So in the beginning, when we started working from the get-go, I noticed that she would ask very good questions.
Nice.
Like, very well vocalized questions. But coach, what if? You know, like in terms of a technique. And like sometimes there were things that I would never even think of, like what if this happened? But for her, like, you know, and just by that, now before explaining a technique, I kind of have an idea of all the what ifs that a kid might ask. And then, you know, and then it's just awesome. And then of course, you know, throughout the years, I've had a chance to work with many kids, and a whole bunch of them are brilliant, and the whole bunch of them are talented, and they all ask me amazing questions.
Yeah, I get you.
Sometimes I get stumbled. I don't have the answer, but then I find the answer, and that makes me a better coach.
Man, you gotta love it, because I think, like you're saying, that must be the true value of teaching, because the mind that doesn't know has no, let's say, discrimination towards techniques or bias towards things. So they're gonna ask you a very strange question for you, and that question is gonna make you revise your jiu-jitsu. It's such a blessing, adult or kid.
100%, man. It's like it is a blessing. Like these questions are such a powerful growth tool.
Brilliant. I wanted to ask you something. I see your Instagram. By the way, a compliment to that. And for you guys, in the description below, go check out his Instagram. You have like some of the most professional photos I've ever seen on an Instagram account. They're very nice, and they make me want to go skydive tomorrow. So was this always you? Was it always your personality to want to go extreme adventure, or was this born out of jiu-jitsu?
Well, I've already been training jiu-jitsu for a few years. I think I was already a black belt when I started when I started venturing out into other so this happened like kind of like by mistake, where I was planning to go to Japan to compete for a tournament, the Asian Open. I had applied for a visa, and for some reason my visa got denied. Oh no. And then I couldn't go compete. I was devastated. So on the way home from the embassy, I remembered watching a surfing video just maybe a day before. I was like, you know what? I can't go to Japan. Guess what? I'm gonna go surf. I'm gonna go learn how to surf. So on the way home, I stopped my car at the gas station. I booked a plane ticket to Bali the exact same time, and then those same days I was supposed to go to Japan. I ended up going to Bali for a surf camp. So I did like a surf camp for 10 days. I learned how to surf in like 10 days.
Wow. That
was my first time like doing some sort of like adventure sport. It was really cool. It was an exhilarating experience because it was something that was very intimidating, and I had preconceived notions about, it's dangerous, it's deep water, it's such and such and such. But in doing it, I realized that like most of my preconceived notions were incorrect. By going through the process of learning, I was able to just do it. And now I like to surf. It's amazing. And then that triggered, like, man, if I've been closing myself off to all these things like surfing my whole life, what else have I been closing myself off to? Mm-hmm. And then I started doing like other, like wake surfing. I started snowboarding. And then I was considering skydiving. Mm-hmm. I was considering it. I'd seen a couple of videos online, and I was like this. But then I kind of thought about, it's too dangerous. In my head, I thought. And then right now, one of my best friends and mentor, his name is Omar Al-Hajlan. He's one of my mentors. In the way I teach, I learn a lot from him because he's done like this NLP training and stuff. So I learned a lot about how to talk to kids from him. And I'll tell you the story about how I met him in a second. So he convinced me that skydiving is the same like any other sport. Like it's yes, at first glance it might look a bit dangerous because there's a plane, there's gravity, there's earth, but there are enough safety mechanisms in place and if you do a safe practice, it's perfectly safe. Same like driving a car. Mm-hmm. You can drive a car dangerously and you can drive a car safely. Mm-hmm. The person in control of that practice is you. So yes, skydiving is a bit crazy, but I practice safe skydiving. I'm happy to say. And then now I started skydiving, and now it's one of my top hobbies. I think after jiu-jitsu, number 2 is clearly skydiving. Wow. And I recently started working my slacklining skills. So I bought a slackline and started practicing that. That's really cool.
Did you see my last meditation? It's the key to all techniques.
No, I haven't seen the last one.
All right, check it out when you have some time. I have a clip in it because my last one's talking about Kazushi and off-balancing opponents. And the best video I could find to describe Kazushi and the fact that when you shift one leg to the other, you have to go off balance was slacklining. but it's insane. Like the guy is slacklining between two mountains with no net.
Oh, no. That's
there's no safety.
That's the ADC of slacklining.
Exactly. Some people are crazy.
In the finals of slacklining, like it's you better be an expert if you're stepping on that mat.
But that's where I go with like these kind of extreme sports, and this is usually my argument is like skydiving. Yes, I believe in the gateway concept. There's always a gateway drug to something, and then that can accelerate, right? It can be like a domino effect. A lot of people, they can get into extreme sports like skydiving, get too confident and do stupid shit. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, I agree 100%. I agree. I think overconfidence, well, not, I mean, even in jiu-jitsu, like even in jiu-jitsu, overconfidence leads to injuries. I say this again and again. I tell this to all my students that it's very good to be confident. You need to be confident in yourself. You need to believe in your skills.
Yes.
But always err on the side of caution a little bit, you know, like, I mean, I've had a knee surgery in my life because of overconfidence, you know? So I'll tell you a funny story. So one day I was sitting in a plane about to jump out. We're ascending to altitude. I have my parachute on and we're all in the plane. I'm wearing a jiu-jitsu t-shirt. This girl looks at me and says, "Hey, you do jiu-jitsu?" I was like, "Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm a coach of jiu-jitsu. I teach kids and adults. Actually, that's one of my students, like jumping with me right now." She's like, "You guys are crazy. You're not scared you're gonna get hurt? It's so dangerous, jiu-jitsu." And it took me a second to like calculate like what's going on, because I took her information in. She said jiu-jitsu is dangerous.
Yes.
I looked at her. I looked at myself. I looked around. I said, we're all sitting here in a plane right now, about 20 of us. And in about 3 minutes, we're all gonna jump out of a plane 4 kilometers off of ground level. And you think I'm the one that's crazy because I do jiu-jitsu in the ground? It's all about perspective, man. From her perspective, I was the crazy one.
Absolutely, man. And I totally understand it, because I think you're crazy because you do jiu-jitsu and skydiving. From my perspective,
there's so many similarities between the two. And it's fascinating. I'm like, it's fascinating, the similarities between the two, because in the beginning you have to learn the fundamentals the same way. Like your AFF course in skydiving is the same like an intro class in jiu-jitsu. You have to learn all about how to keep yourself, like how to front roll, how to back roll, how to hip escape, how to do all the basic body movements, and you learn the basic positions, just the very basics. In your AFF course, the exact same. How to control your basic body position, how to get stable, how to open your parachute, how to safely land.
Yes.
You know, and once you're past that, comes like the more, you know, you start getting more and more. Then you start getting, you know, half guard, close guard, spider guard. And in skydiving, you start doing formations, you start doing free flying, you start doing tracking. And there's such a parallel between the two that I think another strong factor that I'm drawn towards skydiving is the same reason of jiu-jitsu. Is because that there's that constant like growth. There's that constant, there's always the next new technique to learn. There's always the next new thing to do. There's the next way to innovate. And you can always clean up your old techniques a little bit and make it a little bit better and make it a little bit cleaner. And it's awesome, man.
You know what I struggled what I struggled with skydiving is the utilitarian approach. I'm a very utilitarian guy, and at this age of my life, I always think of things as, why am I doing them? Being something very important. Like, what value do they add? What value does skydiving add? Like, what do you see it as, something that contributes to your life, or is it a form of release, meditation, whatever you might call it?
Okay, so this is something that I feel both in jiu-jitsu and skydiving is very often I'm able to reach the flow state, which we all crave. The flow state. You know, when you pass a guard and the person reacts and you do a top spin and you jump on their back, before you know it, you're like, how am I on their back? this, sometimes we get the same thing in skydiving where there's like a few of us flying in unison, and we're just
Mm.
looking at each other, and we just like flying together, and we're reading each other's body, like the body language, and we're flying a certain way. It's
Wow.
it's amazing energy. The community is the same. It's the same like it is on a jiu-jitsu mat. It's the same in a drop zone. Like after a great jump, you hang out, you high five, you talk about that awesome jump you had, you talk about the next jump you're gonna do, and you have a lot of friends over there. And same like in jiu-jitsu, man, my best friends are from jiu-jitsu. And
Yeah.
now I have another avenue where I have a bunch of good friends too.
Man.
And man, it's very hard to put into words what I get out of it.
Okay.
But I'm really glad that I did it. And I believe it's gonna be if there's two things that I'm gonna do like indefinitely, it's train jiu-jitsu and jump out of airplanes.
Man, so you guys heard it right there from Ricky. If you want to learn how to do jiu-jitsu or jump out of a plane, two completely different spectrums, you know who to talk to. Man, listen, it's really amazing how much time and effort and thought you put into the things you do. And I respect people like you because we have a lot to learn from this. When a person puts this effort towards their own life, they create the opportunity to teach others. A lot of people live life by coincidence and by just happenstake. You're doing a bit more than that, and it enriches the people around you. So I highly respect that about you.
And I thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm a big proponent of like writing down your goals and putting them all over wherever you are. Like on that wall that I'm pointing to right now is a bunch of jiu-jitsu and skydiving goals that I have.
Wow.
There's a few moves I need to like master, and in both avenues. And
nice.
I just make sure that like by a certain, like, have you heard about the acronym SMART goals? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
Yes.
Yeah. So they need to fulfill all five. So I have a few goals in both the avenues, and I see them every day when I wake up, and I'm gonna do my best to achieve them.
Man, I love that approach towards your life and towards what you do. We only have so many years that we have this health, this physical energy to pursue things. It's such a shame to waste them and say, I'll try this later, because you're not going to have the same level of energy and time.
Yeah, man. Like, dude, like, can you imagine how fast, like, it seems like March was yesterday. It seems like March was yesterday.
This year disappeared.
And this time is heading in one direction, it's, and the only way we can look is back at what we did, and I'm a strong believer. When you look back, it's like, let's make sure we live a life where we look back and we smile at all the things we did do. Yeah. I think like, that's like it's a very strong driving force for me to like, one day when I look back, I really want to say like, man, there's in jiu-jitsu, like there's a lot of really cool things. There's a lot of cool people. There's a lot of cool lives that I was able to positively enhance. In skydiving, the same. In the other sports, the same. Some really cool moments. And when I look back, I want to smile more than I want to frown, for sure.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to hear it, and I'm happy to hear and feel like jiu-jitsu was that gateway drug for this happiness that you feel.
For anybody that hasn't ever trained jiu-jitsu, if there's anybody out there, you don't know what you're missing out on. Like physically, mentally, spiritually, man.
Yes.
It's I'm really grateful that to that friend of mine who told me about that gym, and I walked into that gym on February 27, 2008, because it brought me to where I am now. It made me who I am now.
Crazy.
And now it brought us together. Like here we are. Like the universe brought us together through this universal language of jiu-jitsu, which we both speak.
Yes.
And we got to meet so many cool people.
So true.
And man, like thank God for jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, let's keep those doors open, and like it's just about trying things. I wanted to ask you, like, a bonus, because you already gave us so much valuable advice and things that we can really build off of on what we talked about this podcast. But I always end the podcast by asking, if there's advice you would give somebody in BJJ from all the things that you learned, if there's this one thing that like flicked a light bulb in your head throughout your journey, I'm sure there was many, but one that stands out, what would it be?
Man, that's a very good question. It would be to think. It would be focus on one step at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say focus on one class at a time. Focus on it day by day. You know, sometimes as a lower belt, it seems a bit overwhelming, like the big picture. But you know what? You got to eat one spoonful of, you know, you got to eat one spoon of food at a time. You know, if you look at the whole bowl, might feel like too much, but if you focus on one day at a time, eventually those 1 days are going to add up, and then one day they're going to become 3,650 days. That's 10 years.
Yes.
And you're going to be a black belt. All you got to do is focus on one day 3,650 times. And that's it.
You know? A lot of people just been like, holy shit, that's a lot. But I get you totally.
Yeah, man. But dude, time flies, man. 10 years passed by like at a blink. It feels like yesterday. Just like, you know, just I was a blue belt, just walking into the gym, just asking, hey man, can you show me this cool new move? It's called De La Hiva guard.
Man. And to think that this generation as well, like if for people that are doing jiu-jitsu, like they've got access to so much more than you did when you started.
Oh man, dude, like, okay, YouTube now is on a different level.
Yeah.
The quality of information out there for free is on a whole other level. And there's different websites that are paid that are just beyond, like, I couldn't have imagined back in 2009, like being able to access this level of information from these like highly qualified people. And for everybody in Dubai right now, you guys don't understand how good you have it. Man, like the ease of access to information, you know, like, yeah, it's really awesome. And that, I believe, has made it exponential, the growth, right? So like the people that are white belts now are able to get better quicker.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm sure you can face it in your gym also. Too much information sometimes is also not a good thing, where, you know, it's like you watch 50 different videos and you come in and try to do all 50 on the same day and none of them work. So
absolutely,
it's a balance between the two.
Yeah, I liked what you said about seasons. Like that was a new thing to me. You were saying that you had a season where you do half guard and a season where you do this. You can have access to all this beautiful information, but focus it, right? Like focus on the half guard instructionals and informations and YouTube videos for a season.
100%. That's a perfect way to put it. I think for anybody like thinking about studying, one of the, maybe not accessible to everybody, find a mentor. Find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a black belt. It can be someone just above your level. Someone just, you know, maybe a year ahead of you. Find a mentor and, you know, like find a game you want to work on and ask for guidance, ask for opinions. Man, in jiu-jitsu, people are super positive and people are going to be, you know, way more than happy to help you. If you're in Dubai, come to Team Noguiera Dubai. We're going to sort you out. We're gonna give you the guidance just in case you're here. Perfect. You know, if you're anywhere nearby, man, come hit us up. You'll have a good time. Man, just find the game and sharpen one game. Like it's good to focus on one thing at a time because our brains can handle a certain amount of information, right? So find one game and spend a good 5 months on it, sharpening it, trying it on everybody, trying it on tall people, trying it on short people, trying it on fast people, trying it on heavier people, and then find the ins and outs. And before you know it, in that subject, you're going to be at a very intermediate to expert level. And then you can move on to the next subject and the next subject. And eventually you're going to be an expert in 10 different subjects. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. That's how it goes.
This is one of the most revolutionary realizations for me in jiu-jitsu, which is grab one thing and just apply it. Fail. Then you start succeeding and then try different body types and it changes your game. To add a line to your poem about Team Noguiera, I have to say this compliment about you guys. The most comfortable mats in the UAE.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Man, my God, like most gym, I love training everywhere. I don't mind whatever. My mats are judo mats, but I mean, in Team Noguiera, you roll and you don't feel the damage on your body because you have really comfortable mats. That's a big plus.
We have some very absorbent mats, you know. Like in general, like the energy at our gym, like so my coach Rafael Haubert has created like a really awesome atmosphere where we're able to come in and like, you know, all grow. And, you know, like the mats are awesome. The training structure is awesome. The vibe is awesome. So blessed, man. I'm lucky to have been there at the right time.
And now you are part of it and represent it. And big respect to you guys because really, truly, without any formalities or whatever, Team Nogueira is a very special place to train in the UAE. It really is.
Yes.
The environment, the vibe, the coaches, you guys listening, you can see Ricky, like this is the vibe you get in Team Nogueira, and it's a very beautiful place in Dubai.
Man, thank you for your compliments, man. Hell,
Absolutely,
that's put out there.
Absolutely,
you guys heard
brother.
it. So if you're ever in Dubai, come to Team Nogueira Dubai. We're gonna start you out. You know how it is.
I'll send you this clip as a promo. You're welcome, Rafael. All right, man.
Cool, man.
Well, everybody on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Stay tuned on Instagram for more podcast interviews to come next week, and keep checking out the BJJ meditations. I got a crazy one coming up. Thank you so much, Ricky. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Have a great night.
Hang in there. Hang in there.